Hello, aloha, and servus. Welcome to Koho Luna, Living Spiritual Greatness. I'm your host, Meiwengel, and I want to invite you on a journey to get to know and to be reminded of your spiritual greatness and how you can live it consciously so that you can create the life you desire. We are all spiritual beings here on earth to have a human experience, and when we focus on this, we are able to create paradise on earth. Come join me in this movement to make this world a better place by letting go of our fears, old patterns, attachments, and resistance. Quick note from me before we get started with the interview. I just wanted to say I'm truly sorry. My microphone wasn't recording properly the day that I recorded this interview. And as always, as you know, sometimes when you record something, it's just perfect the way it is, except for the sound. I hope you can forgive me for this, and I hope that you can still enjoy listening to this very special interview with my teacher from Hawaii. Thank you for understanding and have fun listening in. I like doing it the Hawaiian way. So we're just gonna dive into this, saying hello to everybody out there who's listening in. Yeah, I'm so excited to be able to make an interview with you, dear Kumu. I was with Kumu last year, January, so 2019. We spent a whole of 4 weeks together, and it was pretty life-changing. Like, I would say I knew a couple of things before I got there, but everything that I learned from you or with you was so, I don't know, it was a deeper understanding, I would say, of the universal laws that we have.
And that's what people describe it as.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
deeper understanding of it.
Exactly. And I love that. I think this is where Koho Luna comes in, because ever since then I started meeting more and more people that have a similar thinking, have, like similar things. Because I mean, it's if I look at this, what we do, what you taught us, it's a little bit similar to what you learn in NLP. It's a little bit similar to what you learn from the law of attraction, right?
Yes.
So, but I feel that if you put it all together, it's like there are a couple of elements that I learned from you that for me were a little bit deeper into, and especially about how do I put this? It's more, there's a bigger part of accepting. It's more accepting of everything the way it is. And I think that's the part of the unconditional love, the unconditional aloha.
And you could also say that aloha is it's the part that everyone joins into, whether they're really conscious about it or not, they're a part of it anyway. That aloha, that love, it's there. So all we need to do is consciously tap into it. That's it. That frequency, the energy of that, absolutely. Yeah.
Beautiful. How would you say, because that was one of the things that actually made a whole big difference for me when I was learning from you, and later on also, is realizing how much judgment there is on this planet in general, like how much we tend to judge everything we do around us, and not just ourselves, but also the people around us, and how much that is exactly the opposite of what unconditional love is.
Yeah. And so you found that. Now, what was it exactly? I'm going to ask this of you. What was it exactly that you found? Because, you've had this thing going on about judgment, let's say.
Yeah.
So what was the key that helped you to turn that
stopping the judgment over myself.
Yeah, exactly.
because I think the biggest struggle, and maybe you can tell us a little bit more, but to me it felt like the biggest struggle that we have is not being judgmental about everybody else. It's basically being judgmental with ourselves, not allowing us to be this way or that way because, you know, we don't want to be annoying to somebody, or we don't want to step on someone's toes. And so we don't do certain things because we have that judgment over ourselves that we're not good enough to allow us to follow our desires, or what would be our pono, right? So what's pono with me? Because I'm in a constant thinking of what would happen with the other people, what would other people think about it, and because of that, I don't listen to my own pono, and I don't allow myself to be pono, to be in harmony with myself.
Mm-hmm. That's because the key, I suppose, is that you finally realized that if you are so much in judgment, well, no matter what you're in judgment about, but if you utilize most of the moments in judgment, then it's just going to continue and continue, and there's never ending with that. So once you grabbed onto that key, that you don't want to do that anymore, that you don't want the moments to expand into more of that judgment, that's when you become conscientious about, oh my God, I don't want to be I don't want to judge myself so harshly. Because if I can judge myself so harshly, imagine what I can do to others, you know? So why go there? Why spend valuable time in judgments? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because that's the energy that I start emanating, right? That's the energy that I'm putting out there.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, very true.
You know, it's really simple. It really is. It's so simple that you have to laugh about it. You really do. And that's another key. The more joy you can bring in as part of your thing for you, then what you've done is you've turned that into the gift for you. You see. So that moment of conscientious joyfulness, which you replace the judgment on, I mean, that's such a huge gift. You know, it's a huge gift. And besides which, who else is going to give you that gift but you first? So, you know, if you're not going to start it, then you could say, you'd probably be drowning in it tomorrow and the next day, or even this moment, or, you know, and it doesn't make any sense. It truly doesn't make any sense. So why do it?
And that's something beautiful, because that's also part of the empowerment that we receive in that moment, right? When we take control and responsibility of everything that we do and bring in the happiness, bring in the joy.
Well, when you've consciously replaced it, when you've looked at olelo ho'olo, which is judgments, olelo ho'olo, and you see it as a judgment, and usually it's a negative judgment, you know, not too many look on the positive judgment. So it's a negative judgment. So it's kind of like, why go there? You know, why would I keep myself in that kind of state of being? Why would I do that? Okay, I would say that because one, you just didn't know how to do anything else. judgment came with, a program while you were little. And then stayed, and stayed and stayed. And also got justified because everybody else does it. So there you go, right?
I love it because you put it so simple, and that's also one of those things that I learned to love. Through the Hawaiian philosophy, basically, the simplicity of things.
Yes.
Nothing has to be so hard. And
no,
even like you're saying right now, I'm going to ask you later, but let's talk about the simplicity first, because it's just so simple. And who told us that it has to be different,
Yeah, I don't know. I never had it myself. I mean, really, I say that. I can say that if there be, see, I got a grandfather that everything had answers as far as he was concerned. And thank goodness, because my coming was to be this messenger. Yeah. And as a messenger, I really pretty much needed to know everything practically, because when you're stringing things through, you have to be able to at least identify some resonance with some of it, although I will admit that a lot of it just comes so quickly, and seamless. And that later on, I usually have to go back to it or have alaka'is, assistants that are recording it or something, so that I could make sure that I have it too, in that way. And, but I had a grandfather who hardly spoke any English. He was a very natural type of person. He would often say that his world had to do with the ocean and the universe, and then the land as well. But there's where he would find his answers to things, And I would just kind of like sit back, and because he would draw these things out in the sand, because the house that we lived in was just right there on the beach practically, And the sand was his drawing board. And so he would draw things, and since I was still growing little, he would make sure that it was clear for me to be able to understand it, And and he would give examples of it, He was really great on examples of it, And I'd say, wow, this is really, yeah, okay. So I developed that kind of beingness, I call it, or refer to it as simple grassroots. That to me was of course I didn't know it then, but the authenticity of the teachings that he was providing, And then it was also backed up by my mother. So she was really good at it, my dad, however, he was, even though he was brought up in the Hawaiian way and Hawaiian traditions, he did not keep that as his influences when he needed to go to work in what we call the holy world, the world of the white man. Yeah. He had to learn to speak English a lot. Yeah. And so it changed his way of thinking a bit and all of that. So, yeah. So all I did see where this would bring in sometimes frustrations for him, you know. And I thought, if there's no feeling of joy, then I don't think I want to do that, you know. Geez, I don't want to do that. I just don't want to do that. Yeah. So I'll stick with grandpa or, you know, my mom. And there were times that I would ask her, huh, why is dad think, how come he's like that, you know? And mom, she never said anything negative. She would always say, oh, because he works hard, you know. Later on, way later, I figured that part out too, you know. And I said, hey, mom, I said, you know, whenever I used to, when I was younger and, you know, a kid, you would always say, you know, if I asked you, why is he like that? And you would say something like, oh, he works hard, you know. And I said, now I can really laugh about that, mom, because he works hard at being a person. He's reshaping himself. In other words, he has to live in the white world. So he's going to do, you know, everything he possibly can to be able to live in that white world, which means changing himself, changing his attitudes, changing his thoughts, because that's what he gets back from that, you know, that environment every day, you know. And I said, so, mom, he actually works hard at being in the white world, in the white man's world. And mom goes, yes, but he doesn't have to. I go, well, I'll remember that. You know? So I did. I always kept that in my memory banks about wherever you are. You can resonate, you can engage, you can choose not to, you know, you can be open, you can even be this action of olela holo, be judgmental, you know. The thing about that is you're the one that has to always be that way because you need to back yourself up or whatever, you know. And if it's pleasant, if it's joyful, if it's love, then do it. But I didn't find that to be so. Judging to be like one of the worst things I could spend my time with. So I said, oh, no.
Exactly, and the judgment itself is a judgment, right? As seeing things as judgment. But one of the things that you said that also resonates with me a lot is like you said, that your father had to work hard, you know, and I find that sad, but a true thing in our modern world, I would say, because probably there's a couple of cultures that might not do that. I heard about the philosophy of Wu Wei, which is basically a Chinese philosophy of doing nothing. And it's basically the doing nothing that goes against our own natural being. And a couple of years ago, when I heard it the first time, it was really hard for me to accept that truth, because for me, doing nothing, I was like, you know, I was coming from a normal Western job, you know, like doing, and you have to be this and that to be perfect and to be good and everything. And now, after I've learned your teachings, I finally understand Wu Wei, because it's basically a mix of, you know, the surrender to spirit, to our universe, to our whole process, but on the other hand, also allowing us to see where we think we have to do those musts, and take those out and say, okay, I'm not doing anything. I'm just going to do nothing. And if something inside of me decides now I have to go and do it, then I do it. And it's so amazing because suddenly I'm way more creative than I used to be before. It's like suddenly I hear, I hear the voices of the spirit world or of the universe or however you want to call it, but I hear it and I see what I have to do in that moment, of doing nothing.
Doing nothing. It's a great way to put it. I can also say that it seems like that kind of antsiness too seems to be, when we're younger, we want to, conquer the world sort of thing and get all of these things in alignment and done and all of that, and then so that we can arise to our season, let's say our winter season, perhaps, if you want to call it that. And we can arise to that, look with experiences that we've done such and such and such and such and such and such. And in other words, my mother would call that involvement to evolve. Okay. So when you're younger, you get that opportunity to involve yourself in a lot of different areas, and you have that battery filled charge up, to go ahead and do that. And then one day you find yourself, hey, you know what? I need to just kind of hold my space, just be in my space, and I need to see how I'm doing and what I'm doing for me. That starts to become very important, And of course, the aging process helps us with that, and that we can become, it's okay to slow down. We're not criticizing ourselves about that, because it's okay. Every season has its time,
Yeah.
So it's really good. It's really good, to think of it in a more expansive way than to be like this mouse in a cage going round and round and round and round. Yeah.
That's one of the things that I also noticed coming from ancestry, because I mean my Chinese ancestors that came to Ecuador, right? I mean there's a whole Chinese colony in Ecuador, and I remember a couple of months ago one of my aunts sent us, because apparently they did a whole how do you say, like a 15-minute thing for TV where they were talking about the history of the Chinese people in Ecuador. And one sentence stood out to me that was so amazing. It's like that the Chinese people were so accepted within the Ecuadorian culture because they were hardworking people. And to me, it was like, how this pictures of hardworking people. We need to be hardworking, and like we need to do this, and to be able to get to something, we need to be hardworking and do so many things. And like you said, it'd be this mouse, that keeps running, and doing. But the thing is that what we don't realize in that moment, because we think, I mean, this world sort of teaches us that we have to do all the time. But we don't realize that by, stepping out and just taking a step back of things, and like you say, also surrender to everything, we are so much more creative. And it's not that we're lazy, because I think it's also compared, or the reason why some people, or at least I can say for myself back then when I heard of Wu Wei the first time, was like, what do you mean I can't do anything? How am I supposed to move forward if I don't do anything?
Mm.
You know, it's this on one hand, and on the other hand is like, I don't want people to think I'm lazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And there's a judgment.
Exactly. There we're back
And
on
it's
that.
against yourself.
Exactly.
And you know what? And the truth is, they're not even thinking about you. They got their own
Exactly.
thing going on.
Exactly.
That's
They're
the big
fully in
joke.
their own things as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the big joke. That's a big joke, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that to be so too, you know. Yeah, so I figure that there's a divine timing for everything. There really is. There's a divine timing for everything. So if I don't get something done, okay, you know, that's where, as you know, the other keys that I have is go into jello mode. Remember jello?
Yeah.
We stay in jello no matter what, because jello doesn't even have a judgment either. You know, it's just jello. You know, that's what I'm doing. I'm staying in jello, you know. So every moment that comes along, I'm just in jello, and if inspired to move something or do something, okay, I'm there. I'm so there, you know. But it is not so there without, you know, being resonating with my own gifts for self, you know. And that part is, how do I emotionally, how do I mentally, emotionally, and body wise think about what I'm doing, and without pushing, without judging myself, without working to the ends of my bones, so to speak. How am I able to feel satisfied about me? You know? And that's where the jello mode comes in. That concept of, yeah, of jello helps you to understand that, hey, you're just doing jello, you know, and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay, you know. See, I come from a culture that doesn't believe in doesn't believe in laboring all day long, as a matter of fact. My culture is such that you couldn't even get us to be out in the full sun working. Okay, my people and culture was all about being as good as nature is to herself. Okay, the plants and all of these things, you know. Because of this belief system in keeping self healthy and, you know, um, gifted. Yeah, so the gifting was to gift ourselves. And that meant that when the influences came to our islands that were all about work, that work synopsis, yeah, that work thing, work ethic, we didn't do it. We didn't do it. I mean, we had a time that you plant. We had a time that you're in the fields, working with the plants and planting things in the sun and all of that. I mean, and gathering and fishing and everything had its timing. Everything had its timing. Yeah. So long as you took care of the body. That was most important. Yeah. So because of it, these corporates, let's say, industries that came to Hawaii and grew the sugar cane and the pineapple fields and all of that. Well, they couldn't get the Hawaiians to do that because it didn't matter. I mean, they'd pay us some money, you know, they'd show us, oh, you can earn this or that, you know. You'd look at that money and you go, wow, that's a pretty paper, you know. But what do I do with it? Ah, you know, and we'd toss it aside. It didn't matter to us, you know. What mattered is the sun and nature ruled. That's what mattered, okay? And as long as we did it according to, for the most part, the nature, the way we were, you know, taught ourselves, then we remained happy people, very happy people. And we could swim and we could, you know, when the sun was full on, no, you don't find us out there. You don't find us with leathery skin, or, you know, you don't find us with health issues like that or anything like that. You know, we didn't overdo our bodies. You know, in fact, when the sun was full up and it was not the time for planting, etc., or even harvesting, you'd find us either on the surfboard surfing, or under a shade fishing, you know, or under the palm trees weaving with others, you know, and talking story and just having a nice day, you know, until the sun wasn't hot anymore. And let's say maybe about 3 in the afternoon, you know, when it's not so hot anymore, then you would do things like harvest and things like that. But all the scheduling was not ruled by money. You know? It was ruled naturally. So because of this kind of habits and the way our lifestyle was, they couldn't get us to work in the fields and things like this. So they had to import labor. So that's how come Hawaii really got, a lot of people.
The Portuguese, the Japanese,
yes,
the Filipinos.
Yes. They could be relied upon to work in the hot fields and stuff like that because they were used to that. They're accustomed to that. They will do that. But the Hawaiian, no, you know. Instead, they didn't understand about how we treated our bodies and ourselves. They didn't understand that. People from the West and Europe, they didn't understand that. It didn't fit the monies, you know, caring about, oh, you got to have these monies because you got to do this. No. We were pretty much self-sufficient. So we really didn't need the monies, you know. And since then, that really, it really basically hasn't changed us that much. Although, a lot of us have, you know, become more imprisoned by the dollars, I would say. And I would say it is an imprisonment by the dollars, sure. You know? But it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be.
No, and I think that's one of the things that I'm grateful that I was able to learn also when I was still working in the corporate world back then. Because I remember that, because I was one of them, I was very meticulous and I could really do the hard work, of course, because I brought it in with my ancestors. But I remember that I was one of the assistants that took because I used to work as a personal assistant, and I was the one that would take the time to actually have chats with people, which means in that time I wasn't working, and that's one of the things I'm grateful that my bosses realized. That's why they let me, they gave me free hand on that, because by doing that, because I was doing that for my soul, like for me to relax on one hand, but also on the other hand to get to know the people I'm working with.
Yes.
To take the time to get to know them as people, like probably what you would call the typical networking, but it was something that came out of my heart, like, because I didn't want to, I know work is important and I got everything ready in time for my bosses, but I needed that me time, because that was my connection with the people.
Your connection.
And the funny thing is, because of that, I got a lot of other things done way faster than other PAs, because the people knew me. Like, if I would come up to them and say, hey, I need your help with this, like, I'm having trouble with this, they would do it. And I would know personal assistants that were higher up ranked than me that would, after a while, call me to do it for them. Because they knew if they tried to call them, they wouldn't get through. Because I was taking the time for that. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, and this comes from the time since I started to be self-employed, is that I realized that any time that I take a break, I'm still doing something for my job, because I'm regenerating on one hand. And now with the Wuvai, in the moment that I stop doing something that I think I have to do, I open up the space for information to come through, like to get the impulse, go and do this now, or going to that now, or just, don't do anything right now, because like you said, right now is not the time, so don't do it. And then I just don't do it.
That's it. Yeah. And of course, if you're not raised with that, bringing in the consciousness to doing that might take you a little bit of a little bit of the talking story with yourself,
Yeah.
And and clearing your path, changing your habits,
Exactly.
So that way you can allow your spirit side of you, your spirit greatness, to inspire you.
Exactly.
To help open that pathway, which is really what Ho'oponopono Keala is all about. You're already your rightness. You're just making yourself more in the rightness and the excellence, and you're clearing the path for it. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. Like you said, to bring through the spiritual greatness.
Yes.
And one of the things that I find amazing, and this is also with the doing nothing, or like you said, I love the term with the jello, because in the moment that I put myself in that jello, I shut up my mana'o, I shut up my brain.
Oh yeah. Yes.
And that's something so important, because I mean, it's important for us to use the brain, to guide ourselves, especially when we want to change habits and stuff.
Yeah, it does have a job to do, after all.
Of course, but it's also the one that comes up with criticism, with judgment. That's the one that's the manao that keeps coming up. And if I go into general mode, I can't hear it.
I have to remind it, that's not your job.
Exactly. And when you go in jello mode, it's like, I can't hear you. What? I can't hear you. Yes. Very
Absolutely.
wonderful.
And you'll find that you are able to, because you're freer about yourself, then you're able to generate more of that inspiration, and that inspiration places you at a vibrational frequency with your spirit, and then more of your greatness can come through. It's that simple. It's that simple, Yeah.
Yeah, and we're back at the simplicity of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I have my she's about 54 now. My daughter, my oldest daughter, when she was a kid, and she had these friends, her friends from school and everything. And when they were going to be coming over to the house, she would say to me, "Now, Mom, I have a couple of my friends coming over now, and she'd be like maybe in the 5th grade or something like that. And I'd say, "Oh, that's nice, And she'd say, "Yes, but I don't want you to be talking to them about spirits, and don't talk to them about ancestors, and don't bring in, all the don'ts." And I said, I said, "Well, number one," I said, "you don't have the money to pay your way through, from this house and your way into the world. So I would, just kind of take a note here that this is my house too, that kind of stuff." And I would say, "If I am moved to talk about the ancestors and the guardians and da 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 da," I said, "when have you known me not to?" She'd go, "Can you just not, Mother?" Not everybody rides that same canoe, And go, "Oh, okay, well, you never know." And sure enough, they'd come over, and I'd be out in the lanai, the porch area, and I'd be weaving something or, something. And they'd slowly come and they'd sit, and they'd say, "Oh, how do we do that? Can we do that?" I said, "Sure." Share that with them, and everything. And before too long, I'd be talking to them about their ancestors. They said, "So where's your ancestor from?" Things like that, And they would be talking with me, and we're chatting along, And then my daughter would come out, and she'd hear it. And she goes, "Tina," or, her friend, she'd say, "Hey, Tina, you want some cake?" Or, "Mom made some cake and stuff. You come on in here, And Tina would go, "Oh, yeah, I'll come later." "So what is that you were saying about?" "I am not really sure where my ancestors are from, Oh, my God, Oh, gosh. Well, now, at her age, and she's, it's really funny because at her age today, she still doesn't, she's very pragmatic. She's, sometimes those in your own family don't catch on yet, which is okay, But anyway, she just recently lost her house to the lava flow, okay? And so she came and she told me, she goes, Mom, my house is going, and all of that. I said, "Yes, I know, I've heard." And I said, you remember? And she goes, "Oh, God." And she goes, "Yes." And I said, "I came over 2 weeks ago to tell you you needed to start moving. Because the messages, I know the ancestors." She goes, "God, don't they ever quit?" Nope. I don't know, but they did say, I should tell you. That's why I came down to tell you. You had 2 weeks ago. Now what do you have? What do you have? And she goes, "Less than a day. We only got these few hours." She goes, "I've got to get some trucks to get, I'm really on a rush." Now she was really on a rush. And I said, "Okay." So she's learned a lot of these things, and it's like sometimes some of us have to learn that way. Some of us have to learn that way, Just because you have a mom who, brings in the ancestors all the time or is a part of that, doesn't mean you're going to be a part of it, And it's okay. It's okay because we all have to do our own choices. We all have to do our own koho luna, our own matchup.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I that I learned also through what we did, or through the Hawaiian philosophy in general, is this acceptance, this that how do you, well, yeah, like we said, the unconditional aloha.
Yeah,
It's also accepting that not everybody's gonna be
that's
thinking
right.
and believing in the same beliefs that I have, and in the same, or they might even think about it. They might even be conscious of that, but they might not be able to integrate it in their lives the way, the way I was doing, or we are doing it in general. And I love it to be able to, because it doesn't mean that I have to separate from these people. I'm allowed to still love them, even though they are so different to me,
Uh,
And that's one of the things that I find so great, and I'm so grateful that I finally understood, because before it really created a separation between me and my way of thinking, or maybe the couple of friends that I had that have a similar way of thinking, and other people that think differently, because it's okay for them to think differently, and it doesn't mean we're not allowed to be friends, even though we
that's
think
right.
differently,
That's right. That's right. The emotionalism on the heart space is what what we have to deal with mainly, is the understanding within our own hearts, rather than the condemning of others who don't believe. You know what I mean? No.
right?
No.
Definitely, yes, definitely, because to me it's more, I think, because before, because I mean, we're still allowed to be not pono with someone, right? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that I love, that's because that's a sign of love to myself, that I'm allowed to say, hey, I don't have to love everybody, but I'm allowed to say, okay, I go with the vibration of this person, but I don't go with the vibration of this person. And I'm not saying that that person is bad. Like you said, I'm not condemning that
No.
person. I'm just saying
No.
we're not pono, we're not on the same
Not on
energy
the same
vibration,
vibration.
and
And
that's it. It does, it's. I'm not saying it's no judgment whether good or bad. It's just, hey, we're different, and
yeah.
with love, you can do whatever you want, and as long as you don't try to change me, I'm not gonna try changing you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Everyone has their own time for what I call expansive or spandex the alohas. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's there for a reason. It helps me to expand my own alohas. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
um, like for my daughter, because she was such a pragmatic person. From day one in my life, and you know, the older I got, the more open and acceptance that I had. And I know she needed to have her world as she sees it. And I thought, hey, that's cool. That's my grandfather used to say, that's right. They get to the beach when they get to the
When they
beach.
get to the beach, exactly. I love that one, because for me, it doesn't only count for I mean, of course, for others, right? Because I don't want to put that judgment on them, but also for myself, because how many times did I in the past, uh, was I like, oh man, why can't I let go of this, or why can't I finally, have gotten this? And it's like, no, everybody has their own time in processing things and putting them,
Yeah,
like integrating them in their lives. And it just takes, has their own time. And I might be faster on this thing, but I might be way slower on this other thing. And we can't compare each other. And this
yeah,
is also what I'm saying, the acceptance, the unconditional love towards myself, that I can go in my pace, whatever I'm doing, to allow that to, like you said, doing in the seasons that there are, right?
yes, 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 yes. And besides, again, even our own raise in our own vibration comes with that involvement and evolvement, as my mom used to always say. Well, this happens to so you can involve yourself in it. And I would go, oh my God, but I don't want to have to involve myself in it. And she goes, well, then it'll keep happening until you decide you need to do this. You know, it was like, you know, pulling teeth. And I'd go, okay, okay, okay. And so, yeah, as I got older, then I realized, yes, you know, you have to take those steps to walk and to grow. So, yes, that's the involvement. And then from that, you evolve. So it's all good. It's all good, you know. It's just like when my grandfather passed on, changed address, right? Um, Everyone I know in our little town here, um, the our you know my cousins, our family, my dad's sister, who is the oldest in the family, she kept calling my dad and saying, "Oh, you need to go over. You need to fly over to the island because uh, our dad, you know, dad is he's he says he's leaving, you know." And my dad said, "Leaving? Where's he leaving to?" You know, and my auntie said, "He's leaving. He's going. You know." And my dad said, "Oh, you mean going?" And yeah, going. So my dad finally got that, and he said, "Hmm." He said, my sister said, or his sister says, "Have you talked to, you know, your dad?" And my dad said, "Hmm, you mean our dad?" He goes, "Yeah, have you talked to him, you know? Um, Maybe he's been in the hospital or maybe, you know, whatever." So my dad said, "No, not yet, but okay, you know, he'll talk to him." So he did. And yes, grandfather did say, he says, "No, it's time I'm gonna go pretty soon, you know." So he was starting to give away some treasured things, you know, his fishing net, things like that, that were treasures, you know, that could help someone else in their lives, things like that. Yeah.
And also
And
that had his mana, right?
oh yeah, his mana. Oh yeah, you know. And so my dad said, "Okay, well, so we're gonna know when, you know, before or." And grandpa said, don't know. I don't know that part. I only know that soon it's time for me to go." Hmm. So okay. So my dad, you know, his sister kept um you know, kept insisting to my dad, "Well, you have to stop him, you know. This is not the old days. This is today's days. You know, you have to stop him. We don't just go like that, you know."
Yes, we do.
Yeah. And my dad says, "What do you want him to be in? What, you know, a hospital?" And, you know, she goes, "Well, yeah, because in the hospital they have all these things that can keep him alive, you know." And my father said, "He does not want to be alive. When it's time, it's time, you know, that kind of style."
Yeah.
And that's how they did it, you know. So sure enough, when grandfather changed address, um, he changed address. And my father was not, you know, in all this upsettingness as was his sister.
Mm.
Ah, But some years later, we find out that the reason she was really upset is because she never went to see him ever. And so she felt very guilty about that. So it was her
okay.
own guilt was, kind of churning her up like that, Yeah. But that's another thing that I've also come to evolve with. And that is the journey continues. It continues no matter what, it continues, When my husband passed on just this past May, just this past, um, the talks that we had to do with, because he was like very concerned about, oh, you have everything set, yeah. I sign all the papers I'm supposed to sign, and this, that. And I said, yeah. And he goes, and you have to make sure now that they give you the papers for the banks and things like that. And I said, I've been taking care of things financially too for over 20 years, And he goes, well, yeah, well, you don't want to be, we don't want anything interfere that you would not be happy.
Oh.
Yeah, and I said, but it'd be okay, it'd be okay, And he goes, okay. He says, well, I'd be okay. And I said, yeah, I know you'd be okay. He goes, okay. Yeah. And that's about the kind of conversation we had the last few times. Yeah. But it was to realize that the journey continues, doesn't end at all. It just continues, And that used to be one of the places that to come to realization about. That was one of the hardest places to do that, I had a hard time with that at one time because the death issue is always something that was kind of cloudy about, how do we do that, I mean, grandfather laid it out really nicely when he did, but you just never know, So yeah, these little things, I guess some of the worst things that you can imagine, it's good to bring it out on the table in the fullness of light and then really look at it, yeah, and know that if the mana'o or the pu'uvai still has issues with that, know that it's not about a fearfulness, or it's not about a Hollywood way of doing things, where they show you all this bad stuff in the movies, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But when you can settle yourself with these things, you're well on your way to that vibrational energy that keeps you in alignment with spirit and the greatness of spirit. Yeah. That's what I find. And so it's been really great. I also find that being able to say mentally and emotionally, especially, navigate in this lifestyle with all of its challenges, it's okay because there'll always be loads and loads and loads of challenges anyway. So the ones that you choose to work with and or to be inspired by or whatever, then that's the ones that you should just head your canoe into those winds of direction, and without, you don't have to have all that dragging of thoughts and emotions that keep you from clarity. It's really,
Yeah, it's so heavy, right? I
yes,
always
it
feel
is.
like it's actually a little bit like the Jello state, but in a dark way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because it's a little bit like as if it's not a light Jello that you can look through, and things, your manao is turned off, but it's more like it's as if it would be the Jello of the manao of the brain,
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of, right? Or all the attachments and how do you say, resistances that we have in our lives.
Yeah. Well, I think like one of the greatest things that I've noted since doing the intensive care program, and just being in this for as long as I've been in it, oh, Jesus, about 18 years or so, maybe even longer than that. um, to find that place of, you know, I would put it like in my classes, when I do my classes, I usually do it with aloha and welcome to your greatness. You know, people sort of get, wow, what is that? What is that? What does she mean by welcome to your greatness? What is that? What is that about? And so we clear the table by presenting that part of the dynamics that people do not recognize about themselves. So the messages usually go right into that right away, because all of the elements regarding Ho'oponopono Keala has to do with that point of entry, that you yourself, as a great, a spirit of greatness and all of that, you yourself are, you know. So the point for that is you're the only you ever created. In the whole universe, you're it, you know. There's no other, that can take the place of you. Because the universe, or God creator, whatever you want to call it, doesn't need duplicates. Okay. Man may need duplicates, but spirit doesn't. Yeah. So in spirit, realizing that you're the only you ever means that you must be the greatest you, since there is no other you. There is no other. There is no sense of, there's no logic, there's no comparison. The comparison, if you ever hear of comparing you to maybe your sister or whatever, yeah, which seems to be, or has been, a contention for a lot of people for so long,
And again, that's the judgment, right?
Yeah, exactly, But instead of, what they don't realize is because there is no other you. And when they make comparison, it's really a cosmic joke. It really is. Because they don't know what they're talking about. And if you were to,
yeah.
I
But
mean, and if you were to agree with that.
Definitely. I mean, the only thing, and that's the biggest joke, I think, because for me, most of my life so far, and that this is really like, I used to be so afraid to be myself.
See,
because,
there you go.
Because I wanted to belong, but I kept trying to adjust to whatever I thought everybody else wanted me to be. I thought whatever they were expecting of me. So I was changing myself so that I would fit into whatever I thought. And this is the biggest joke ever. because what I thought that they wanted me to be.
So I could go on and on and on.
I,
Was
I was going to say, because now that they're back, you probably wanna spend time with them. But if I could just take you for one more thing, I would love for you tell our viewers and our listeners, because they're going to be listening in on the podcast, and the viewers on YouTube, about your program. Because I mean, you still have, right now you have how many people in your house? Is it 5, 6?
There's 6 now. Oh, 8. There's 7 of us total. There's 7 of us total.
7 students plus La Akea, and then you. Nice.
Oh no,
tell our viewers. Tell our viewers a little bit about your program, because I want them to know about it. So in case you like what we just talked about, please go to Big Island, Hawaii, and go visit Kumu Mahealani.
Yeah, drop me an email first.
I recommend doing the 4 weeks, because it's a good time to really integrate everything into the system. I don't know how long you have the students in at the moment, but I felt that for me the 4 weeks was really good.
It really is true, though. The 4 weeks really is the best, because it takes 21 days normally, 21 days to change from old programs to new programs, but it takes the every day also to get that seated in, lock it in, you know what I mean? So the internship program was, or is, as a result of how I was raised by my grandfather and of course, my mother. And that the mentors, you lived with the mentors, you know? And so that way you had access to them every day, every day. I mean, to sit around and have a class is one thing, but then it's the in-between stuff, in between the classes, that pops up and you go, oh, now, what did Kumu mean by this? I got my notes here, but I guess I missed this part, And so here comes Kumu. She's coming in for some, coffee or something like that. Oh, good, Kumu, and she's right there. You know what I mean? And for me and Lakia, we're both right here, so it's great. So they get to exchange or change with us, and that helps them a lot, So that's where the internship was purposely to provide that kind of teachings, the teachings to them in that kind of program. Yeah, it's a live-in program.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I can really recommend to anybody who's looking for something like that, because you're really right there with Kumu. Kumu, by the way, we forgot to explain. Kumu is the name of teacher in Hawaii. So, but yeah, no, sorry. But it was just, for me, I can highly recommend it, because it's beautiful to really live in with your teacher, to learn the culture. And I thought it was this beautiful mix of, on one hand, having the time to really talk to you, but then again, to go on little adventures during the day to integrate what you were telling us. Yeah, because I think if we would be talking 24/7, that would be too much. But that way, it was like, okay, you would give us the inspirations and the talks and the things, and then we would have time to, process everything.
Yeah, that's always so good, Yeah, I tell people, this is not like an ashram where you have to stay in place and where you have to, that they have certain rules, and, this is actually a very jello kind of internship. It's pretty jello. And the students also learn from each other, which is so good too. And they learn, like one of them was just saying to me the other day, she says, you know what is really great about this program? And I said, no, what? And she said, well, she's done, she's gone to retreats and other things like that. She says, but here, she says, and I know it has to do with you because you're very family oriented, and when it comes through, it comes through that way. She goes, I feel it, and I talk to the others and they feel it too. It's like we're all in the same canoe, like you often say, on the same canoe. And that by having each other, we don't feel like we're alone in the world, and we're in the club of, the Pono Club. I said, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and the beauty about it also is that because of the synchronicity of things, you're always going to make friends. Even if you go there by yourself, you're always going to make friends. Doris, I'm just naming you, the one that went with me. We're still friends. We've met a couple of times afterwards already. We're still in touch. And it's wonderful because we help each other to remind ourselves. And we're already planning our next trip to Hawaii together.
You guys are roommates. You never knew each other before. Not at all. That was really good. You guys had that sense of like you knew each other, kind of thing. You just resonate. And in truth, I haven't found anyone who's been to this program. Not, I get the message that the program is so kupuna engineered, meaning ancestral engineered. My part is as the messenger. That's my part. But they design the programs. They choose the people. Choose the people that come in, like say you and Doris, you guys didn't know each other. I certainly didn't know you, but they know you, so no worries.
Yeah, I think that's why I called it the synchronicity instead of the koholuna, because it was not something that was so much the mirror of things. It was more like it was meant to be, it was meant to be just the two of us in the training and with having the time with you. And that's why I'm saying, I think because of the synchronicity of things, or maybe because of the kupuna engineering, you're always going to be with people that are going to inspire you, and that you'll probably be in touch afterwards to keep on helping you integrate everything you learn.
And I haven't figured it out yet, but one day we're going to either map it out or however that works, but I'm going to have if you care to be one of the people that you're on the paddler's canoe, and the paddler's canoe means that people can get in touch with you. Other paddlers can get in touch with you. Like say a paddler or two from Oregon, or some other place in the world, and they're coming to Italy, and they want to see if they can, hook up with somebody who's been in the program, because you both resonate already, So it's kind of like a club, a membership club. You've been through the program, so you guys know what that's all about and how to, be with each other, because you are, you're part of that membership. So putting that together, then you can go on to probably be on my website maybe, or another website, I'm not sure, but we'll put it together, and those who want to share and then be available also, or want to participate in that, great. So we're gonna do that, right, Lakia?
Aye, mai ka'i. Yes.
Mai ka'i ai. Pow.
Oh. Yeah.
Perfect. My dearest
Yeah.
Kumu, thank you so much. Thank you for the possibility to talk to you again. It's really beautiful. I'm going to put all your details under the video or the podcast
Oh,
episode so that people can find you.
yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait until we talk to each other again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mahalo so much.
You're so welcome. And aloha and have a great time. Okay, talk to you soon.
Aloha.